welcome everyone to the third module of Science Policy and Advocacy for STEM Scientists course.
We'll move into more biomedical workforce now with Chris Pickett, who is the director of Rescuing Biomedical Research, which is a nonprofit that addresses systemic issues in academia. So Chris and I actually have known each other since at least 2016, and he's a big part of why I'm working in science policy today, and specifically on the topics of this module. So really happy to have you. Some of the projects that RBR has worked on include career trajectory taxonomies, funding for young scientists, as well as an examination of public grant information to better understand the careers of research scientists. Prior to joining RBR, Chris was a policy analyst with the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, where he headed up the society's efforts on improving the sustainability of the research enterprise. Among his many contributions to this area include organizing a meeting to identify action items that would make significant reforms to the enterprise, and I'll share this later. And he received his Ph.D. in oncological sciences from the University of Utah. And today, Chris will describe his work, the work of RBR towards changing the academic system, including how we can use data to do so, and specifically how inequities in grant making are affecting diversity and inclusion. Chris?
So thanks again for having me. Happy to talk to you all today about the work RBR is doing and some of the efforts that we have going on right now. So RBR is a bit of a different organization in that it, nothing like this has really existed before RBR came along. Our goal is to catalyze changes that promote effective science policies and culture in biomedical research. So what that means is that, so RBR is a group of myself, I'm the staff person, and then we have 22 volunteers who are pictured here. And I'm not gonna go through all of them, but we have a great group of people, and we've really recruited people with very notable profiles. And the way we use that is we take these profiles that these people have to open doors and convene meetings. So for example, we have people in our group who were the former directors of National Institutes of Health or directors of the various institutes at the NIH. We also have people who are current or former university administrators, current or former presidents of universities, vice chancellors of research, provosts, what have you. Rush Holt was a university administrator and then became a member of Congress. We also have a number of young people who are part of our group, including Gary, who will be talking soon. But all of these people have shown initiative and formed committees or communities around reorganizing or reforming various aspects of biomedical research. So we bring all of these people together, and the way that we get work done is not by having these people decide what should be done or what we should be doing, but rather to open doors. So if I were to email someone, my email is probably going to get ignored. But you know, these people who are on our group, when they send an email, it gets opened, it gets read, it gets responded to. And that's the power of this group. That's the power of having all the notoriety that goes along with the people who are part of our group. Because we can leverage that to convene people and actually discuss the real reforms that are needed to make changes in biomedical research. And so I'm just going to give a couple of examples of that today. So the first example actually happened about a month before I joined RBR, but this effort was led by Daniel Colon Ramos, Jessica Polka, Harold Varmus, and Ron Vale. And this was a meeting to really get biologists to embrace preprints and publish more preprints for their work. So if you're not familiar, a preprint is a manuscript that you've finished, a scientific manuscript, and you can submit it to a journal. You can also submit it to a preprint archive, and that archive will have it up online in a couple of days. So it's not peer reviewed, but it is available for people to look at and to analyze and to hopefully accelerate the pace at which science works. So this was accepted in physics and math and computer science for a long time, since the 90s, but in biology it had never really taken off. So this group of RBR members, using their notoriety, brought people together at HHMI in 2016 to have this discussion about how we could get biologists to embrace preprints. And it was a very successful meeting. One of the ways that these the folks in RBR can bring people together is that they have people who are clear proponents for preprints, for example, but also people who are skeptical. And it was a forum to hear everyone out. So they published a very nice paper, Preprints for the Life Sciences, and the way they organized this was to embrace both the proponents as well as the skeptic side of the discussion. So they had 3 different parts of this paper: the academic's perspective, why would a biological scientist want to publish a preprint, why would they not want to publish a preprint? The perspective of journals, why would they want to publish something that's already out and about in their journal? And then the perspective of funders, why would they want people to be publishing preprints? How does that affect grant evaluation? So this is one of the ways that RBR brought people together to make a real change. And if you've seen any of the data on preprints in life sciences, you'll know that the curve of the number of preprints being submitted is almost exponential over the past several years. It's going up. It's really being embraced by the community, which is great. It's great for science as it speeds science along. So it accelerates the pace of research. Now, another project that Adriana made reference to was our work to encourage universities to collect and publish the career outcomes of their PhD and postdoc alumni. This is something that I was very involved in with RBR. And we did a lot of preliminary work on this, but again, we tried to bring people together to talk about this. So a little bit of background: why do we want universities to do this? Well, you probably heard and we're probably told that doing a PhD is a great way to launch a career. You can do so many things with a PhD. And our position was, put your money where your mouth is. If you think there is so much that can be done with a PhD, then show us what your PhD alumni are doing. And to that end, we were encouraging universities to actually collect the data on the careers that their alumni are in, and then publish them, make them public so that everyone can see them, so that students, faculty can make informed choices about what they're doing for their careers and for their training of new scientists. So this is not a new recommendation. Shirley Tillman, who is currently the chair of RBR and my boss, was the chair of a National Academies Committee more than 20 years ago, where they came out with the recommendation, as it reads here, that career outcome information should be made widely available for students and faculty. But it took almost 20 years for this recommendation to be realized. And RBR is a big reason why that happened. So as I said, we convened a lot of people who are working on this, people from different universities, people actually doing the work, with the goal of trying to come up with a concrete way of publishing data so that everyone could understand that. We wanted a unified mechanism to collect the data, a unified method for publishing the data, so that when you look at career outcomes for PhDs and postdocs across universities, you're making apples to apples comparisons. So we did this, we had our meeting, it was very successful, we published on it, and that publication actually was part of the foundation for what became the Coalition for Next Generation Life Sciences. This is a group of universities that decided to band together and hold each other accountable for collecting and publishing the career outcome information of their PhD and postdoc alumni. And you can go on their website, it's nglscoalition.org, and click on the various universities and see the career outcome information that they have of their various PhD and postdoc alumni. Another important thing about this, about the CNGLS, is that they are also publishing demographic information. So in addition to collecting the career trajectory information of their alumni, they're also publishing demographics like gender, citizenship, and underrepresented minority status. We're really trying to push universities to be more transparent, not just about the careers that their alumni move into, but also about who is at their institutions and who have they trained before, so that prospective students, prospective faculty can look and see if that's going to be an environment that they think they want to be a part of. So now I'm going to shift gears with the rest of my time just a little bit to talk a little more about diving into data. So I am very interested in trainees and how trainees progress through their scientific careers. One of the things I do is analyze various data sets, including the data sets of the NIH. So one thing I really want to know is how do people move from their PhD position to a postdoc to a faculty position? So these data are from a 2016 publication, but also from the NSF. They often put out these numbers, but roughly 80% of PhDs do a postdoc, and 60% of those postdocs say that they want a faculty position, and this is for biomedical sciences. But only 10% of those postdocs actually get a faculty position. And interestingly, most of the 60% who know that they want a faculty position also know the odds are incredibly slim for landing that faculty position. So what makes it, what does a postdoc have to do to actually get that faculty position? There's a lot of luck involved with the research projects and other issues, but with regard to data and what data has been collected, what can we ascertain about these questions? And for biomedical scientists, you probably heard postdocs say, I have to get a K99 before I can go on the job market. And if you're not familiar with the NIH granting system, the K99 is a kind of grant from the NIH that is made to postdocs. It's made to postdocs in the last couple of years of their postdoc period. And when they become a faculty, it transitions into what's called an R00 award, which funds the first 3 years of a lab. So it's a very highly sought out award by postdocs and also faculty. So the question I had was, first of all, there aren't nearly enough K99s for all new faculty to have had one. There are far more faculty who get hired than there are K99 awardees. So what is it about about postdocs that catch the eye of universities? And the NIH makes a lot of grants in a year, tens of thousands of grants in any given year. And by law, they have to collect data on these grants, who they were given to, what year, how much, and they publish most of these data online. So I scanned through all of these data, looking at the grant awards that most new faculty get, called R01. And then I found all of these faculty who got this R01 and then projected backwards, saying how many of these people had a grant prior to getting a faculty position. And these data are shown here. So in 2000, on the left side of the graph, you can see that about 20% or so of NIH-funded faculty members had an award during their graduate student or postdoc period. And this percentage rose rather linearly up to about 35% in 2017. So there's a clear trend that universities are favoring people who had prior NIH awards when they're making their faculty hiring decisions. Now, one thing that I am thankful to Gary for, because he always pushes me on this, is to take into account the people who are not eligible for these NIH awards. So these training awards and graduate student and postdoc periods are eligible for US citizens and permanent residents. They're not eligible, or people who are foreign born are not eligible for these awards. And this is important because the faculty is made up of about 15 to 25% of foreign born scientists. So when you look at just the number of faculty who are able to get these awards, how many of them did have an award, this actually gets very close to 50%. So in 2017, about 50% of the people who were eligible for NIH awards for 50% of new faculty who were eligible for awards during their postdoc or graduate student period, they had them. So do you absolutely have to have these awards to get a faculty position? No, half of the population did not have these awards when they got a faculty position, but half of them did. And there is a trend towards universities favoring people with these awards. So, with this is a way to, this is the last data slide that I have, but I want to make a plug that, there are ways to get involved with different organizations and, convening people together, but there are also ways to make differences in science policy by looking at the data that are out there. All the data that I used with this were public data from the NIH. So I published a paper. If you wanted to see more about these data, it goes much more in depth than what's right here. But there are a lot of different ways that this can be done. So, and just real quick, I was told that it might be useful to show my career progression. So I just want to say that I was an undergraduate at the University of Colorado in Boulder. I went to graduate school at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, and then I did a postdoc for 5 years at WashU in St. Louis. And I'll put my plug in right now that if you want to move into science policy, a postdoc is not at all necessary to do that. You can move into policy without doing a postdoc. I did a postdoc, however, because I wasn't sure what my career path was. But when I did figure out science policy was the way I wanted to go, I did a science policy fellowship at the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. And I was there for about 1.5 years after that policy fellowship ended. And then for the past 4.5 years, I've been with Rescuing Biomedical Research.